Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back. In today's lesson, we will review Chapter 8, the structure of reasoning. Now, the chapter identifies two common structures utilized within debates. The first is referred to as the classical structure, also referenced to as Aristotle's model. And then the second structure is Tolman's model. You all actually used this second model within your first debate. Although some of you may have had difficulty practicing with the model while reviewing the video provided, this video will hopefully give you clarification of how each element what each element entails and how we'll go about using the model within further debates, because this is the structure that we're going to be using within all of our outlines, within all of our briefs. So the first debate, you may have noticed you may have had some difficulty implementing the model, and we utilized simply for practice. We utilize it simply for practice to strengthen and familiarize our skill set. So hopefully some of the information will not necessarily be new to you, but it's instead going to strengthen your understanding and further use of the model for further assignments. So you may be asking, why are we even using Tolman's model in the first place? We are specifically using this model because it details how each component of your argument is working. We are testing the validity of each element: the claim, the evidence, the warrant, the backing, counter arguments, and qualifiers. In doing so, it helps us evaluate our own claims and others' claims while developing critical thinking skills, which is literally the preface of this entire class. So within this video, we will focus on Tolman's model and the 6 elements associated with it broken down. So let's jump right in. The first element of Tolman's model are claims. Claims are the conclusion we are trying to establish by our arguments. Within the section, we are answering the question, what are you trying to prove? An example of this outside of debate would be a thesis statement. Like within an essay, you, in a sense, prove your thesis statement within the body of your essay. Within a proposition, we may make claims associated with our proposition. However, our proposition in itself is a claim, whether it be related to fact, to value, or even policy. In other words, the claim is the point we are trying to make. For example, let's say I wanted to do a proposition of fact, and my topic was Disneyland is a popular theme park. Okay. And again, we can make adjustments, we could rephrase that, but that's a claim that I'm making generally, and that's something that I can have a debate with someone about. So we're going to stick with that example throughout the remainder of this video. So let's start off with that claim: Disneyland is a popular theme park. Okay. Second, we have the grounds. Now, the grounds includes the evidence and reasoning to establish the foundation of our claim. Essentially, the grounds supports the claim we are making. Grounds are the proof or the evidence, right? So again, grounds are the proof or the evidence. This might include statistics, quotations, reports, anything essentially to support our ideas. It could be personal testimony, which remember we want to navigate away from, but any of those are really supporting our ideas, and that would be considered our grounds. The grounds answers the question, what is your proof and how do you know? So those are the two questions we're addressing when we're talking about the grounds. So going back to that Disneyland example, Disneyland is a popular theme park. An example for the grounds could be Disneyland has over 40,000 attendees per day. Now, of course, I'm going to want to specifically cite where I got this source from. This is kind of just an example to demonstrate this is my supporting evidence to support my claim that I'm making. So Disneyland has over 40,000 attendees per day. That's my grounds. Moving on, third, we have the warrant. The warrant connects the claim with the grounds. It's like logically linking the two together more concisely. So for example, so a generalization that I could make connecting the two statements already mentioned could be a lot of people from around the world enjoy going to Disneyland. Now, of course, there are a lot of different warrants I can generalize from the claim and the grounds mentioned, but the warrant should make a clear logical connection to your overarching proposition. Fourth, we have the backing. The backing is the additional evidence and reasoning to support our warrant. In other words, the backing helps support the warrant. For instance, a recent study found that between 16 to 18 million of the guests who visit Disneyland are from out of state. So you see how that goes back and that supports my warrant, right? So moving on, fifth, we have the model qualifications, and this is also referred to as qualifiers, and that's what we're going to refer to them as throughout the remainder of the term. So qualifiers. The qualifiers demonstrate the relative strength of an argument. For example, the connection between the claim and the warrant are probably accurate. Using specific sources and percentages would spike the probability of your assertions made from probably to certainly. If there are clear statistics, for instance, that reign true across the board, based off of multiple studies, the qualifier used would be certainly. If there is a room for question in connecting the claim with the warrant and grounds, then we would reduce the qualifier. So, and you'll see this again within the next example. So again, we would probably use, for this particular example, probably. Last but certainly not least, sixth, we have the rebuttal. So with our rebuttals, we are introducing evidence and reasoning to weaken or destroy another's claims. And we did this again within our first debate. I think that from what I've read so far, because you all know that I'm still grading them, I think that you all did an excellent job. I am really enjoying reading through your discussion board posts. You all are wonderful, let me just say that. It takes me a long time because I am reading through every single discussion board post. I'm reading through every single response to your peers, and they just amaze me. I have a wonderful class. I'm very excited and I'm very happy, and I'm enjoying all of the debates, whether they be through the discussion board post or through a video platform. I'm really enjoying the class and the individual, all of you in the class. You just make for a very interesting, interesting debates are taking place, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying reading everybody's. I hope you're reading everyone's too, because they're fun to go through. Okay, so for example, let's go back to our example, okay? So someone who had to pose a rebuttal that Disneyland in itself is a popular theme park, they might state, although Disneyland attendance demonstrates high percentages per day, in a 2018 study, Disney World in Florida was actually the world's most visited park, right? So now instead of we're comparing popularity in a sense. So I think the proposition of fact can be a little bit more difficult to have a rebuttal for. However, as we dive into propositions of value and policy, we're definitely going to see more interesting and creative rebuttals. And that's why for your upcoming debate, I really want you to think about something that you'll have fun and you'll be passionate about, and it's just going to be interesting, because I know for the first debate I assigned each of you your position and the topic. So it's going to be very interesting to see each of you select a topic. Not only something clearly that's controversial, but it relates to value, and it's just going to be very interesting. So remember though, your rebuttals become more sound if you're using more clear statistics opposed to just personal testimony, of course. That would be like me using the rebuttal that, I've been to Disneyland and Disney World, and Disney World was far more popular and busier than Disneyland when I went, right? So see, when you're using, and I mean, you may want to use something you may use personal testimony. I would be very, don't use, it can build your credibility, but I would not use that as my main rebuttal, or my main, I would not use that to support my ideas. And there's just so many loopholes through that one statement alone. So again, just being mindful of that. Here's also another example to demonstrate how the model works. So let's look at the claim. The claim is public school teacher salaries should be increased by 30%. So this is clearly a proposition of policy, related back to policy. So that's our claim, number 1. 2, we have our grounds. So teachers in public schools are among the lowest earners, yet perform a vital service. Okay, so now we want something to connect the two. We want something to connect the claim and we want something to connect the grounds, which would be the warrant. So surveys place teacher salaries near the bottom of all white-collar professions. Okay, so that's connecting the claims and the grounds. And then we have the backing, which is adding evidence to support your warrant. So a salary comparison shows that teachers can earn less than most city employees. You see how that ties back? And this one has a counterclaim involved, which again, this is something that you want to be mindful of when you are conducting research. You want to look at counterclaims. You want to look at your opponent's position as well. It's only going to strengthen your arguments, which I noticed a lot of students did do that within their discussion board posts where they looked at the opposing view. For instance, for minimum wage, some individuals were like, well, I am in favor of raising the minimum wage. I do they took into consideration inflation, which I think only strengthened their arguments because, again, you're not necessarily one-sided. You're not only looking at one perspective. You're also looking at the counterclaims being made as well. And so there's counterclaims, but what we want to look at now, right? We already talked about backing. So let's talk about the qualifiers. So the qualifier for this would be instructors who do not foster student success should be paid less. Right? There's the qualifier right there. And then last but certainly not least, we have the conclusion. You're noticing that there is, many factors, counterclaim, any basic educational needs, right? So that would is, okay, excuse me. So the counterclaim is the rebut. Sorry, this one confused me a little bit. I'm a little tired. Okay, we struggling a bit too. But the counterclaim in itself, this isn't something that you necessarily, like the little boxes and how they're laid out, you'll notice if you did go over the text that they do arrange them in different ways. What I'm mostly concerned for is your ability to go through and kind of outline it on your brief so that you can be constructive and you can be evaluative of the claims that you are making. But also when you're reviewing other students' videos, you're going to look for the claim. You start looking for the warrant. You start looking for the backing, and you start noticing whether or not they're implementing counterclaims or rebuttals. What is their qualifier, right? So these are elements that I want you to familiarize yourself with, not only so that there is some sort of organization taking place when you're constructing your debates, but also when you're constructing a rebuttal. These are items that you want to be mindful of as well. Like if their grounds or if their claims or if their backing aren't sound, that's something that you can jump on right there. That's something that you can pull out and be like, hey, I noticed that you were missing, and so on and so forth. And of course, being a little bit more specific in that regard. So remember your brief outlines each of these elements associated with Tolman's model. So the more familiar you are with Tolman's model, the better off you're honestly going to be. But if you do have any questions, if you have any concerns, please do not hesitate to email me. There are a bunch of really fun examples. Like I found this fun example. I was like, oh, okay, public school teacher salary should be increased. Okay, let's use this one, right? There are many examples online that kind of give you an understanding, that go through and it pulls each one aside and it shows you exactly this is what a claim is, this is what a qualifier is, this is what a ground is. And hopefully this will help you in not necessarily mirroring, but modeling what we should be doing within our outlines as well. This is kind of just breaking it down into pieces, but you'll notice within the outline in itself, because it includes in-text citations, because the majority of it is your own words and it is your own work, there's definitely a lot more taking place. It's more than just these little boxes. So again, questions, comments, concerns, feel free to email me. See, my words are just slurring because I'm tired. It's been a long day. But I will see you all soon. Please do not hesitate to email me. Ask me for a Zoom meeting. I'm here for you. Keep it up. You're doing great, okay? Have a good night.